think I remember. Didn't I write the whole thing, then bring you in to get the punctuation right? Isn't that how it went?
Well, you'd got the page numbers basically in position, but there were an awful lot of blanks.
That was it.
But you had the title, I do remember that.
Title.
I think
the spelling was wrong, I think.
it probably began with Jabberwocky, I mean just a collaboration on Jabberwocky, which I didn't write. And then, I mean, was that the next thing you wanted to do after Jabberwocky?
No, because I was trying to do Brazil. And Dennis
Really?
O'Brien,
Even
who is
full-time
now
Dennis?
our manager after Life of Brian, said no. And then out of a kind of frustration, I thought, let's make a movie for the entire family. That's something that worked for everybody. Which then your son came up with a great line, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Or was it my great? No, it was my great line. He came up with another one for Jabberwocky. Tom did.
What was the line?
I don't know.
Okay.
But the line I kept saying was something,
Oh, yeah.
intelligent enough for children and exciting enough for adults, something
Yes.
on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of form.
yeah.
But out of frustration, I think I have to take credit for the initial idea of running through time and space and committing crimes and able to then escape with the loot of your crime before the crime was committed. That's where it started.
No, it was absolutely. I mean, you'd written a couple of sides of paper which you appeared one day in my kitchen. I remember that, and said, "This is the next thing. Look, this is the basic idea." And it was really pretty much all there, including, I think, Time Bandits, the name, which you always felt was only going to be a working title, and we'd probably have to change it eventually. But that, I remember you bringing it round. I remember seeing that, and that basically was the whole idea on two sides of foolscap.
And the idea, I think, was, again, trying to do a film from a child's point of view, but thinking a kid couldn't sustain it, so let's surround him with a gang of equal-heighted people, which became the little guys who were the Time Bandits. And I think the original idea was still in there, that they had been working for God and got bored and frustrated because going out and robbing banks and things was much more exciting than creating the universe.
Yeah.
But
so there's a lot of characters there, basically. And then it was the idea of going back through history and sort of, I'm not sure how that happened, just who we'd use, I think that...
Didn't we sit down and actually come up with a series of historical
really
characters?
Interesting characters that everybody would know, and also that there had to be different periods of history, so they wouldn't clash, and they looked very different. So there was, there's ancient Greece, and there was the sort of Napoleonic Wars, which you liked very much because a lot of battle stuff and bodies throwing themselves around.
All that stuff. Yeah. But I still
particularly that period, was it you said it's got to be that period?
No, I think Napoleon was clear because it was he was about power, adventure, and to rob Napoleon seemed a good thing. But I think again your skill was to know all the short people in history, all the powerful short people, which is an incredible source of knowledge that most of us don't have.
I don't know whether I knew that Napoleon was short, but it was a hell of a bonus.
But all the other ones, wasn't it Tamerlane and all of them, this list that went on and on.
I sort of made that up, I think.
Oh.
I'm not sure that's totally historically accurate. But Napoleon was very squat. And actually I did quite like the idea that some of the most powerful people in history were short and angry at being short, therefore very dynamic. So they had it in for people who were tall, languid, and of a normal height, who had a fairly comfortable life. And so that's what gave them the energy and the obsession to get back at the people who were big and tall. That was...
But I still think a great moment to rob him and then end up in the Middle Ages where there's Robin Hood who then takes all of their wealth. So it was this constant thing of them failing, which is what was important. And it was also a sense of a kid with all of his heroes, and we're deflating them as we go through the whole movie. Whether it's Napoleon, Robin Hood, we're just pulling the rug out from underneath their feet. And the kid, the thing that intrigued me the most was when we wrote the whole business with Agamemnon, and kept trying to write clever stuff.
Oh yes.
And then in the end, threw all the clever stuff out because there was something. It was one of those great discoveries that you can really be touching and moving and without being clever. And it was a major leap for Pythons to make.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way it worked with having someone like Connery. You can't really cut him down to size and get him to do gag lines. You're rather wasting his presence. And he was just wonderful as Agamemnon. I thought, how's he going to do this? And Connery was introduced in film because Dennis O'Brien played golf with him or something like that, wasn't it? I mean,
but it was from that line that we wrote in the script that the Greek warrior removes his helmet, revealing himself to be Sean Connery or an actor of equal but cheaper stature.
Yes, that's right.
And Dennis, in his typical way, would take that straight. Okay, let's go for Sean Connery.
Yeah.
And we got him.
I couldn't believe that he'd agreed to do it unless he owed Dennis some terrible debt. But the point was, he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And what I worried about was if we really did get Sean Connery, maybe this is just too much. It was all right as a joke in the stage directions.
Yeah. But the magic little trick he does there, that was his idea. Yeah. That wasn't actually written for him. He said, I can do this little thing here. Yeah. Incorporated it beautifully. It was very simple. I think it was our first sort of attempt at doing something simply and really effectively, because you've got the right person playing it with all the baggage that he comes with. And so... just simple. Yeah. And it was really nice. I think, where did we go from there? I mean, the idea of God chasing him, we'd built it. And I think that some of that came from Julian Doyle, who felt we needed a motor under the thing, pushing it. So I know he was certainly pushing me to get more of that idea of being pursued by the Supreme Being and also by evil David Warner. Yeah. So you kept a certain pressure under the whole thing.
Yeah. And also that the group of the little guys was a gang. Yeah. Well, they all got together and the maps didn't quite correlate. Anything, really.
But that's what I mean. And those characters are where you really, I think, get all the credit for making them as diverse and rapacious and awful and wonderful.
You don't write parts for people like that, really. If you've got a dwarf in it, you're sort of there as a bit of a sort of freak character, usually. And they all we just gave them sort of ordinary, sort of suburban obsessions. Yeah, which it was really rather.
But
nice.
It was very much like
biting and.
But it was like Python. I always thought of it as the mini Pythons is what it really was. Because there was the leader, and then there was the second one who really thought he could do it better, and then there was the animal one. And then I think I know which one I was. Which were you, Mike?
All of them put together wouldn't have been as high as John Cleese.
No, but then what happened was, again, stuff we wrote to solve our problems as we went along. Once we'd got this thing in shape, then problems arose, because remember there was the Spider Women in there, which we couldn't afford to film. There was all this business that didn't get on film because of lack of time and money, and then we made that quantum leap of an invisible barrier that we're at the place already. We just can't see it, which was a nice solution to.
You could actually. I seem to remember the writing process as being quite quick, because we could sort of invent where we went and nip around. It was such a good, strong idea, and it was a child's vision of fantasy anyway. And you're going back through all sorts of periods of history. So if we got stuck, we just sidestep to a different period of history or a different.
But do you remember the future bit? That never got filmed?
Yes.
Where they went to the future, they're robbing a bank, and they couldn't be seen by the teller because they were so short. I don't know where that one went. That went the ways. I don't even know if we must have a script of that somewhere.
It's probably in a Python film eventually.
Oh, that's right. But I think the thing that intrigued me was having worked with these guys, because they had never had a chance to be heroes in films. Again, they were dressed up in Womble costumes. They weren't heroes. They weren't real people, and I always felt if Alan Ladd could get away with it, why couldn't they? They were only a few inches shorter than Alan Ladd.
Well, some of them taller than Alan Ladd.
Possibly, right.
But they were. The great thing was they weren't heroes in the stock sense, or didn't go the other way and say give them all heroic lines. I mean, they were quite disputatious.